Hello everyone, this is the story of, what if Naruto's first beat belongs to Hinata's trembling lips. 3 weeks till, it's not a big deal if I haven't, right? Grumbled Naruto as he blindly walked down the streets of Konoha thinking aloud. Damn that Kiba, who does he think he is anyway? The blonde kept on muttering to himself without even noticing what direction he was headed in. It wasn't until a familiar voice called out his name that he snapped back to reality. Naruto. Called the voice for a second time. Naruto looked up and spun around. To realize that he was in front of a familiar flower shop. He looked at the sign. It was Ino's family flower shop. Naruto, answer me when I call you. Sakura. She ran up to him from the flower shop and smacked him in the back of his head. Sakura-chan, you didn't have to hit so hard, did you? Whined Naruto. The first thing you do when you see me is hit me. What happened to? Hey, how are you? Sakura ignored his comment. Where are you headed to? She asked. Naruto shrugged, about to give a half-assed answer when he noticed Ino running out the front door towards them. Sakura, don't run off like that, Ino exclaimed. Sakura crossed her arms. Shut up, Ino pig. Don't tell me what to do. What are you talking about, big forehead Sakura? Naruto sighed. He didn't want to get caught in the middle of yet another one of their catfights. I'll see you, he muttered and began walking off in the other direction. From the corner of her eye Sakura saw the blonde as he walked away. Wait a moment, Naruto, she called out to her teammate. Naruto, Ino thought aloud. Sakura sighed and gave her friend a look. It was people like Ino that made Naruto feel like shit. Now that Sakura had been his teammate for some time, she had begun to see the way other people treated him and felt obliged to stand up for him. Ino, shut up, she said quietly and ran after her teammate. Naruto could hear the sound of footsteps behind him. Was that Sakura following him? That's so unlike her, he thought. Usually, she would have insulted him, left him alone or even forget him, but lately, they were finally becoming more mature. They were finally beginning to accept each other as friends and she was starting to actually care about his feelings. But of course there were still many times when they both acted like the immature teenagers they were. Naruto, Sakura yelled. Naruto stopped in his tracks and turned around. What is it, Sakura-chan? I have a lot of things on my mind right now. Sakura caught up to him and began walking next to the blonde. What things? She asked him. He turned his head away to face the stores that lined the streets. Nothing, he answered suspiciously. But you just said you had a lot of things on your mind, implied Sakura, matter-of-factly. So what if I said that? I changed my mind, snapped Naruto childishly. Normally Sakura wouldn't have cared too much about what Naruto thought about. She was sure it was probably about ramen or defeating Sasuke, but some kind of girly instinct told her this was different. Not only that, but her curiosity was beginning to get the best of her. Come on, Naruto, you wouldn't have said that if you didn't want to talk about it, she coaxed, hoping to get it out of him. He shook his head. I told you, it's nothing, answered Naruto quietly. Sure, come on Naruto, tell me. Naruto shook his head again and looked off. Sakura was beginning to lose hope when she spotted Ichiraku's, Naruto's all-time favorite restaurant. If you tell me, I'll buy you ramen, she bribed. He looked up and gave her a slight smile. Sorry Sakura-chan, I'm really not that hungry. Sakura threw her hands down in frustration. Just tell me, Naruto, we're friends. Something is wrong if you are turning down ramen. She cried at him. Naruto sighed and gave in. I'm not really upset, just frustrated, he explained. Sakura nodded. And? She prompted. Mad, continued Naruto. Sakura gave him a look. I kind of figured that. Why are you mad? Naruto's eyes began to get smaller and form. The evil eye and his fists began clenching. It's all that stupid Kiba's fault. What do you mean? What happened? Asked Sakura. Well, it all began. Earlier that day. Naruto looked up from his bowl of ramen to stare at Shikamaru. It's your birthday when? He asked. Shikamaru sighed. Kiba just said it. Naruto looked to Kiba for an answer. You should listen when people are talking. Snapped Kiba at Naruto. Hey, I was eating my ramen. You don't expect me to concentrate on what you're saying too, do you? Kiba rolled his eyes and looked away, ignoring Naruto. His birthday is in a couple days. On the 22nd, said Choji, finally joining the conversation while waiting for his next bowl of ramen to arrive. Naruto turned to Shikamaru. So, you're turning 16. The other shinobi nodded. I'm going to be the same age as you. Naruto shook his blonde head. Nope, I'm not 16 yet. I'm still 15. Choji looked at Naruto with some interest. Oh, when's your birthday? Naruto took a big slurp of ramen. Oc to ba teen hhth, he replied, mouthful of food. Ugh, that's gross. Naruto. Stop it, whined Kiba and decided to ignore him once again. So, Shikamaru, gonna go and do anything exciting for your big birthday? He grinned slyly, looking at his friend. Shikamaru shrugged. I don't want to do anything that takes too much effort. But it's an important day. Shikamaru, you only turned 16 once, explained Choji. So, was all Shikamaru said. Kiba shook his head. At least tell me you've done everything that a guy should have by 16, right? Asked Kiba. Naruto's ears perked up with interest. He had finished his 8th bowl by now and decided to take a break. What do you mean, Kiba? You have to do certain things before 16. Kiba laughed. Well, you know, there are just some things that every guy should do. Like, break a body part. That's easy, I've broken tons. Get drunk and have a hangover. I can do that. What else? You don't have to like it, but look at porn. Ew. Well, my teacher is Kakashi, so done. Go on, have your first beep. Don what? Cried Naruto. Hig. Pitched and jumped up from his seat at Ichiraku's. Shikamaru, Choji and Kiba all stared at the blonde, wondering what caused the outburst. Naruto, said Shikamaru, annoyed, don't do that with your voice. Choji looked confused from behind his bowl of ramen. Kiba thought for a moment, then burst out laughing. Don't tell me, Naruto, he said in between laughs, you haven't had your first beep yet. So what? Grumbled the blonde. Not everyone has had their first beep yet. Then he paused. Right. He looked at Shikamaru, then Choji, who was turning a bright red. Ah, stumbled Choji. Well. Kiba smirked at Naruto and patted Choji over the back. Even Choji has been beeped already, haven't you, Choji? The brown-haired boy blushed even harder. Naruto's eyes were beginning to burst out of his sockets. Choji, is this true? The other shinobi was too embarrassed to answer. What about you, Shikamaru? Naruto asked, silently pleading that he wasn't the only one. What about me? He replied as if just joining the conversation. Have you had your first beep yet? Asked Naruto impatiently. Had everyone really all have their first beep before 16? What about Sakura, Sasuke? There was no way in hell that even Sasuke had his first beep already. That guy hated it when people invaded his personal space, let alone touch him, thought Naruto. Who cares about that stuff? Answered the lazy nin slowly. He got up from his seat at the ramen shop and began walking away. He turned back to his teammate, who was still cherry tomato red, coming. Choji slow. WLY gathered himself and followed after his friend. That left a baffled Naruto and a grinning Kiba. Even you, Kiba? Asked Naruto. Kiba gave Naruto a look. Of course I have. Who could resist me? Naruto returned Kiba's look. Besides, continued Kiba, everybody has. Everybody. Who would beat you? Grumbled Naruto as he was thinking to himself even more. Everyone. It couldn't be true. Hey, don't be jealous just because someone would beat me and not you, teased Kiba as he got up from his seat and began to walk from Ichiraku. You still have time, Naruto. There's about 3 weeks left till your birthday. Kiba left Naruto alone, who seemed to be deep in thought. I wonder if he's actually gonna go and do it, wondered Kiba as he walked away, silently laughing. Dash. Back to the present. Dash. After Kiba left, I went around asking some people, explained Naruto. Everyone I asked really had been beeped before they were 16. Sakura couldn't help from giggling at Naruto's frustration. I can't believe this is what was making you worried, Naruto. The blonde pouted. It's just annoying to think that everyone has been beeped except me. The pink-haired girl smiled at her friend. It doesn't matter, Naruto. It's not a big deal. And if it happens, don't you want it to be with someone special? Well, yeah, I guess. You don't want to just beep anybody, right? Naruto slowly shook his head. He was deep in thought once again. You're right, Sakura-chan. I shouldn't be worrying about something this silly. Come on, I'll let you buy me some ramen. Naruto began pulling Sakura towards the shop. Naruto, I thought you said you weren't hungry. She cried, remembering that she still had to buy Ino a present for her birthday, which was the day after Shikamaru's. But she let out a laugh as the hyperactive boy began running excitedly. She was glad to see Naruto happy again and not worried like before, even if it was over something that ridiculous. But what Naruto had said also made her think. If most people were beep-ed before 16, did that mean that? Oi, Sasuke, don't block my way, yelled Naruto. Sakura and Naruto's other teammates stood before them, a frown clearly showing on his face. Sakura stepped in between. She didn't feel like cleaning up yet another mess that Naruto and Sasuke would most likely make. Sasuke-kun, want to join us for some dinner? She asked. I already ate, was the quick monotone reply. Naruto rolled his eyes. Seriously, Sasuke, don't be such a party pooper. Sakura's asking you to join us. Just come and be there, mumbled Naruto, who had let go of Sakura and was looking at his rival intently. For once, Sakura mused, Naruto was saying something worthwhile. Come on, Sasuke, she said softly as the blonde kept on staring. In fact, he had been staring just a little too hard, Sakura thought to herself. Even Sasuke, the king of starers, was beginning to get freaked out. What? The blue orbs began to squint and become smaller and smaller. Sasuke, he began slowly. Sakura looked at her teammate confused. What is this boy thinking? What? Sasuke looked annoyed, or well, as annoyed as he would let himself look. You're 16, right? Quote. Sakura's eyes widened as her breathing hitched. Naruto was going to ask him. She was going to find out what she had been wondering ever since Naruto had brought up the topic that day. No, cried inner Sakura. She wasn't sure if she was ready, no, if she wanted to know. Have you been beep-ed before? 19 days till. Sasuke didn't know if he could take it anymore. Naruto was just getting on his damn nerves. It was always, Sasuke, tell me. And, come on, Sasuke. It was so bloody annoying. It had almost been a week since Naruto had started bombarding him with endless questions about this and that. Sasuke didn't see why did it matter anyways. Continuing to pound into the poor helpless tree in front of him, Sasuke finally came to a conclusion. Tonight he was going Shikamaru and Ino's birthday party, whether he liked it or not. And sadly, the dark-haired boy wasn't planning to go have fun. No, he was planning to go and murder. Kiba forever mentioning that horrid topic to Naruto. Beeping. Slutty blue dress that says, I'm a slut, take me now. Or revealing green dress that says, I'm easy, so come and get me. Sakura asked, Ed herself holding up two dresses in front of her, looking into the mirror. Her pink hair was hair pulled up, half done with bobby pins holding it in place and the other half lightly grazing her shoulders. She sighed. She did look good. If only she could just pick out the right dress. Was this too much? Would he ever recognize her? Deep down, Sakura knew the answer, but she didn't want to admit it to herself. She had gotten so used to the idea of having Uchiha Sasuke that she had never really considered anyone else. God, he'll never see me that way, she muttered to herself. Lookin' in the mirror once again, she rolled her eyes. She knew she could be so ridiculous at times. Sakura tossed the two dresses back into her overly large closet and settled on her usual dress. She quickly pulled it on. Be yourself, she thought to herself. Don't try so hard and maybe for once he'll come to you. Once she finished dressing, she looked back in the mirror, checking herself over one last time. Damn it, she said to herself. Just be yourself. Finally content, she smiled at her reflection only to notice a familiar face looking back at her through her bedroom window. Naruto, you pervert, she screamed. Shikamaru sluggishly walked through the streets of Konoha in the direction of Ino's house. He didn't really want to go to a birthday party that he hadn't even asked for, but she had begged him to. Begged. It was almost amusing. No, it was amusing. Ino had always acted high and mighty and never would resort to begging around, but apparently Shikamaru was a different case. Our birthdays are only a day apart. It's a perfect occasion for me to throw a kick-ass party to liven up all tight asses, insisted the blonde blue-eyed beauty he had grown to care endlessly for. Don't forget it'll be lots of fun. And, she put on her best seduction eyes, and pouted her lips. Trust me, you will be handsomely rewarded. In the end, Ino had won him over. She always did. The lazy nin put his hands behind his head and walked carelessly while staring into the clear sky. Fall may not have been his favorite season, but it was just as beautiful as any other. D. Shikamaru always had a weak spot for perfect days. That was exactly what that day was, practically perfect. Not too hot, and not too cold. Maybe this was a good sign. Maybe it was a good idea to go. Then he lightly touched his lips as he remembered the way his promise was sealed with that beep. He smiled to himself. It was going to be a hell of a birthday party. Sakura's scream had sent the saint-startled Naruto slipping off the windowsill and sprawling onto the street. I think I broke my back, groaned Naruto as he lay motionless in a crumpled heap. It wasn't before long when Sakura came running out of her house to her fallen teammate. What the hell, Naruto? Knock on the door like a normal person. I think you've been hanging around Kakashi-sensei way too much lately. Naruto smiled sheepishly. I didn't want to disturb you parents. Sakura sighed and rolled her eyes but still offered the blonde her hand to pull him up. He was grabbing his back in pain. You didn't have to scream so loud, you know. Then next time, don't scare me like that. Okay. Geez. With that said, Naruto and Sakura began walking towards Ino's house. A grin crept slyly on his lips as he realized he really was taller than his female teammate. It had taken a while, but he was finally growing. Maybe all those years of drinking milk really did help, but then again, he was still shorter. Sasuke, thought Naruto. I wonder if he's going to come tonight. Of course the Uchiha had been invited to the party, especially one that had been planned by Sakura and Ino. The brooding brunette probably wouldn't come though, because he knew that Naruto would be there, and lately, he had been avoiding Naruto like the plague. Naruto wasn't sure why his rival was so touchy on the subject and wouldn't answer his questions. Was there something he was hiding? In all, it only made Naruto more and more curious. There was also something else. Every time the blonde mentioned the words, beep, or beeping, now he wasn't positive. But he was almost sure that he could see the other boy beginning to turn a slight pink. Though it may have been very, very slight, it was still there. Naruto. The blonde snapped out of his thoughts. What is it, Sakura-chan? The pink-haired girl smiled. Are you still worried about what Kiba said last week? She asked. Naruto crossed his arms. Well, no, not really, he answered. The first few things he mentioned are going to be easy to accomplish, but you're still thinking about a beep, huh? Sakura said, giggling at him. Hey, Kiba said everyone. How would that make you feel, if everyone had done something, and you hadn't? Everyone. Sakura rolled her eyes. Well, if it helps, I'm not part of that everyone. Naruto looked at her confused. What do you mean? I mean what I said, she replied and looked ahead. You mean you've never been beeped? Cried Naruto, looking at her surprised. I never said that, and why are you so surprised? Her teammate smiled at her. Cause Sakura-chan's so pretty and lots of guys like her. I thought you would have beeped lots of boys by now, explained Naruto. The pink-haired girl shook her head. I haven't beeped boys. I just beeped a boy. When she realized what she said, she covered her mouth. Great job, screamed inner Sakura. You just blurted out something no one was supposed to know. WHO, asked Naruto eagerly, looking at her like a little kid who was waiting for a cookie from the cookie jar. Sakura mentally slapped herself. No one, she said quietly. But you just said. I take it back. Waiting for the blonde to pout immaturely and get mad at her, Sakura looked towards the ground. When she heard no reply, she turned her gaze back towards her teammate. He had this sad and defeated look on his face. That's not fair, he said slowly. I told you, last time. His eyebrows furrowed, his bold blue eyes cast down, his lips pursed in a thin line. This time Sakura mentally punched herself. She let out a sigh. It was Kind of a mistake. Really, she began. How so? Prompted Naruto. Well, I actually wasn't beeped before I was 16, but I have been beeped before. It was a mistake. Well. She paused, because it wasn't with Sasuke. Ino paced her kitchen angrily. Where is she? The blonde cried aloud. Sakura hadn't showed up yet and the party was almost about to start. Any second now, and people would be. Ding dong. The doors open, yelled Ino as she stirred the punch in the bowl once more and then carried the beverage into her living room. Hey Ino, happy birthday, called out Kiba as he came into Ino's house. The blonde-haired girl walked to the entrance to greet him and found Shino with him as well. She watched as Kiba gave Shino a slight nudge. Happy birthday Ino, he said. Kiba handed her a wrapped box. Here, this is for you. Ino smiled. Thanks guys. Come on in. She was about to follow them inside, when she saw more following quickly behind them. Hinata, Neji, come in. Hinata smiled shyly and passed Ino her gift. Happy birthday. The Hyuga heir peeped out. The other Hyuga only gave Ino a slight nod. Ino smiled and let them in. Soon, Ino found many had milling around her house, all except her best friend and the birthday boy. Where are they? She thought as she walked around her living room. A couple of the partiers were playing some games, many others were scattered around chatting here and there were those who were beginning to get drunk. Ino, come join and play, invited Choji, who was flicking the spinner for a group deeply concentrated on winning at the game, Twister. Left hand green, her teammate announced. Ino laughed as she watched Lee ungracefully crew MBLE on top of 10-10 who in turn fell on Kiba and began a domino effect. Laughing and shaking her head, she walked towards the kitchen. Wanting some privacy, she realized the kitchen was not the place to go. There were girls who were attempting to mix some drinks. The girl instead decided to get some fresh air. She opened her back door to go outside. Kamaru, Ino cried stunned when she found him lying on his back in the backyard. Unsurprisingly, he was staring into the sky. Come here, he spoke with a softness as he pointed to the spot next to him. Ino quietly obeyed and joined him as she lay down on the grass. You were here the whole time. It's a beautiful day, he said bringing his hands up over his head. Ino smiled. This was the way Shikamaru always was. She looked into the sky, which was swirl of pink and orange haze. And, I was waiting for you, he added. Happy birthday, she said and planted a gentle beep on his cheek. Then she turned her gaze back to Sky but out of the corner of her eye she could see his smile. Wait, out of the corner of her eye she could see something else too. If she wasn't mistaken, was that Uchiha Sasuke? In her tree. What the hell was he doing? Why don't you talk to him? Said Naruto. You can't just leave the poor guy hanging like that, even though it has been a couple of months. Sakura turned towards Naruto who actually had on a serious face. I don't know. The girl answered back quietly. Naruto sighed. I know you think you are in love with Sasuke, but it's not the same for him. As Sakura's face began to fall, Naruto continued. You two are teammates and I'm pretty sure Sasuke doesn't want a girlfriend. In fact, I think he's a beep UAL. But that's another story. Anyways, take your chance with someone else for a change, Sakura-chan. He let out an infamous Uzumaki grin, and if anything ever happens, I will always be here for you. Now when did you become so wise? Said Sakura with a small laugh. I'm not as dense as you think I am, I do think in my spare time. Sakura giggled. Sure, what about ramen and Sasuke? Sakura stopped laughing when she saw the slight blush that covered Naruto's cheeks. Whoops, she had meant to say, defeating Sasuke. No, he cried in his defense. Before Sakura could say something she felt Naruto pulling on her hand. Come on, we're late for the party already. We've been talking this whole time. We better go, she said dragging her along. Sakura stopped Naruto right before Ino's house. Thanks, she said as she looked off to the side, for listening and talking with me. Naruto grinned cheekily. No problem Sakura-chan, I mean we're furry. Sasuke wasn't sure what was wrong with him. He wasn't sure why he felt this way. Why, it didn't matter that Sakura was hugging the dobi. That was a hell of a long hug, he thought to himself almost bitterly. Some stupid part of his being was getting angry at Sakura for hugging Naruto and even angrier at Naruto for accepting her hug. Why? Why was he getting worked up over something as stupid as Naruto being hugged and touched by Sakura? It didn't make sense. Sakura usually made fun on Naruto and didn't respect him. Why was she even hugging him in the first place? And why did Sasuke care? Carefully blocking out his thoughts, Sasuke was about to leap from the tree and leave when Ino called out. Sasuke-kun, you came. 19 days till. Let's play a drinking game. Where am I again? Naruto wondered. Oh right, Shikamaru and Ino's birthday party. Damn, maybe I have been having too much to drink. Naruto scratched his head. I don't know Kiba. Maybe I shouldn't, replied the blonde giving a sheepish smile. Kiba rolled his eyes. What? Why not? I've had a lot to drink already. So in other words, you're afraid of losing, aren't you? Taunted Kiba, knowing that with Naruto he had hit the right buttons. What? Never. Bring out the drinks Kiba, I'm taking you down. Cried Naruto pumping his fist enthusiastically into the air. Behind them, Sakura giggled nervously. Are you sure you two should be doing this? She asked. What are you talking about? Said Kiba. You're going to be playing too. And the rest of you. Kiba spun around randomly pointing at those nearby. Some looked a little scared, Hinata and Choji, some looked annoyed, Neji and Shino. Some were excited, Lee who could never turn down a chance to show Sakura how great he was, and others didn't really care. Naruto looked around. Shouldn't we wait for the Shikamaru? And Ino. It is their birthday after all. Mentioned Naruto as he watched Kiba gather everyone into a circle. Sakura nodded. Don't worry, you guys set up and I'll go find them. With that, Sakura bounced off, leaving the rest to listen as Kiba began explaining the rules. This game is called Truth, Dare or Drink, began Kiba. What? Interrupted Ten. That sounds exactly like Truth or Dare. Ah, but we get to drink, pointed out Lee. Anyways, continued Kiba, it's like the normal Truth or Dare but with a twist. You get the awesome option of being able to drink. Do we have to? Questioned Choji. Yeah. Don't forget if you turn down anything, you have to drink twice the amount. Wait, you mean the whole glass? Interrupted Naruto. Of course, answered Kiba, how else are we going to get drunk? Sasuke-kun, I knew you'd come, cried out Ino as she ran to him. She may have grown out of her silly little crush, she had the beep-wise Shikamaru now, but there would always be that trivial rivalry that she and Sakura would forever carry out, even if it wasn't for the affection of the Uchiha. The dark-haired boy who was finally out of the tree and on the ground, stiffened. It wasn't that he didn't like Ino, but the girl could just be so annoying at times. Sasuke often wondered what the lazy nin saw in her. I knew you'd come, she repeated when he didn't reply, and to Belly. Eve Sakura said that you probably wouldn't. But I knew you wouldn't be the party pooper this time like you've been in the past. Sasuke raised a perfectly arched and shapely eyebrow. There was almost a hint of a question in Sasuke's grunt. Ino took it as, what? Party pooper? Me. It's just that lately, Sasuke-kun, you seem a little calmer and less angry. Explained Ino slowly as she tried to find the right words. Sasuke cringed but did not answer. So anyway, are you going to come in or not? Asked Ino. Sasuke hadn't moved from his spot. In fact, he looked like he was trying to inch away. Sasuke-kun. The brunette shook his head. I can't. I have other plans. The blonde-haired girl looked confused. Then, why exactly are you here? And why were you in my tree? You were coming to visit, were you not? Ino seemed to be demanding an answer as she impatiently tapped her foot. Inside, Sasuke had begun to panic, but he kept his cool demeanor on the outside. Crap, he thought, what am I supposed to say? I was spying on Naruto and Sakura. He sighed. I came to say, happy birthday, he said slowly with no emotion and looked to Shikamaru who was still lying in the grass instead of the kunoichi. Thanks, Sasuke-kun, cried Ino happily and turned her head as well towards Shikamaru. Shikamaru, she said warningly. The brown-haired shinobi sighed and muttered something about women being so troublesome. Then he finally gave a slight nod to acknowledge Sasuke, who returned it with his own stiff nod. See you later, were Sasuke's parting words before he disappeared with a quick poof. What are you guys doing out here? Come inside, we're going to play a drinking game, called Sakura as poked her head out the door. Ino nodded. We'll be there in a sec. Sakura went back inside. Ino extended her hand to Shikamaru and slowly pulled him up. Ah, that's too bad, I wanted Sasuke to stay. But he seemed a little weird, didn't he? Shikamaru shrugged. I guess so. Well, at least he came to say, happy birthday, that was so nice of him. Shikamaru rolled his eyes, not that he cared, but he didn't really want Ino talking about her old crush too much. Come on, let's go inside. There's a party inside I'm sure you want to join. Hinata's cheeks were thoroughly flushed even though the girl had only a single drink. She wouldn't have been drinking in THE first place if Kiba and Naruto hadn't insisted that she join in on the fun. And if Kiba and Naruto hadn't made her join, she wouldn't have gotten asked a dare that she, Hinata, would never do. So in the end, Hinata chose the drink over the dare. What harm was in drinking a little alcohol anyway? Lee and Ino were most definitely drunk. And Kiba, well, Hinata couldn't help but giggle every time her teammates slurred his words or willingly accepted the embarrassing dares given to him. She could tell Choji and Sakura a little too much to drink by the way their faces were unnaturally bright red. And then there was Naruto. He appeared to be out of his mind drunk. Probably more so than Lee or Ino, which is a scary thought. Anyo, what did you say? Asked Naruto, his voice all raspy, cheeks bright red. Kiba rolled his eyes and gave Naruto a look. Do I always have to repeat myself? If you had to beat someone, who would you choose? Naruto blushed, which was pretty hard to tell because he was already red from drinking. He beep. Who? Me. Naruto seemed jumpy, nervous. The others around him giggled. I think the alcohol has made Naruto even slower than usual, laughed Ino. Naruto only looked fazed. He wasn't paying attention to what was going on around him. Come on, growled Kiba, you're going to have to choose someone within the next couple of weeks anyways. Spit it out, Naruto. Hinata's eyes widened. What was her teammate talking about? Her crush was going to do what? Nah, Naruto-kun. Hinata stumbled out slowly. What is Kiba talking about? Luckily, the one drink that Hinata did have had given her that giant leap of courage it took to ask. Otherwise on any other given day, she would have been too shy. The blonde only gave her a big cheeky grin. Ramen. Ramen. He began chanting slowly. Hinata looked helplessly at Kiba for an explanation. Naruto's going to beat someone before his 16th birthday. What? Blurted out the Hyuga heir. Who is Naruto going to beat? There was almost a demanding tone in her voice. Look, Sakura pointed out, Naruto's definitely lost it now. But Hinata wasn't even paying attention anymore. She was only focused on was Kiba's answer. It could be anybody, Kiba replied with a shrug. Hinata sighed in relief. If it could be anybody, then maybe there was hope for her. Though not a single thing had happened in the 4 years Hinata had a crush on Naruto, she could not lose hope yet. The dark-haired girl looked towards her crush who was carelessly bouncing around the room hyperactively and focused on his lips. Those full, perky pink lips were finally going to be hers. Yes, that was it, Hyuga Hinata was going to beat Uzumaki Naruto. Sakura slowly twirled her pink hair with the index finger of one hand while the other hand held an empty cup. I don't know Ino, I can't really say if it's fish lips or not. The two girls were sitting on Ino's couch, drunkenly discussing the possibilities of what lay behind Kakashi's mask. Shikamaru sighed as he walked up. Come on you two, it's time to go home now, he told them slowly, as if talking to 5-year-olds. Ino violently shook her head. I live here, you go home, she cried, spitting as she spoke. I am going home, Shikamaru murmured then huffed under his breath, you troublesome woman. But Ino wasn't even paying attention. Her whole body had begun to relax and her eyelids lowering by the second. The Chunin watched as the blonde began to settle on her couch and close her eyes. He turned to Sakura who only shrugged. Well, I'm going to go home. You can take care of a sleepy drunk, right? Sakura asked while slowly attempting to leave the comfort of the couch. Shikamaru nodded. Yeah, but are you going to be fine? He asked. Sakura shook her head. I feel a little dizzy, but I am a Chunin now, after all. I should be fine. She paused, but you are going to have a problem with him. The pink-haired girl giggled and pointed to Naruto, who had finally stopped running around the room and settled for hanging upside down in one of the trees in Ino's backyard. Shikamaru sighed loudly for the second time. It had been already hard enough to get the rest of the drunken shinobi out of the house, but Naruto. That would be beyond troublesome. Sakura, if you don't mind. The pink-haired girl was already ushering Naruto out of the house. She was used to his antics by now. Nay, nay, nay. Let's go eat ramen, yelled Naruto triumphantly. Flew to his teammate's side. I'm tired. Whined Sakura, I'm only going to walk you home. Anyways Baka, the ramen stand isn't even open at this time. What? No ramen? Come on Naruto, let's just get out of here. Shikamaru watched as the duo left the house and then turned his head back to the couch. There she was, snoring, loudly I might add. He gave a small, amused smile and slowly knelt before the couch to gingerly lift the sleeping girl into his arms. He was thankful that Ino's father was on a mission and her mother was visiting a friend's house. Happy birthday, Shikamaru whispered, then gave a small beep on her forehead and carried her to her bedroom. After all, isn't that what boyfriends are for? Sasuke was panting harshly as he lay on the forest floor. Damn, it's late, he thought to himself, looking into the night sky, later than usual. Earlier, the stoic boy had found himself more immersed in his daily practice than usual. He wasn't allowed to be wasting his time partying and hanging out. He was supposed to be training and getting prepared for the one fight that he was living for. It was the only thing keeping him alive. That and Sasuke sat up. What had just run through his mind? He hoped it wasn't what he thought it was. And what he thought it was, well, it was something that could never be said aloud. Ever. I wonder where the Dobi is anyways, thought Sasuke, probably being the center of attention like always. Laughing and partying with everyone else. The Uchiha stood up and stretched to get ready to start again. It wasn't that late if you call midnight not late, and he figured he could still get in another hour or two. Sakura pulled Naruto by the arm. Why hadn't the boy calmed down yet? He was still every bit as full of energy now as he was earlier that day. Sakura-chan, you're hurting me, whined the blonde. Sakura sighed and loosened her death grip. Hurry up Naruto, I wanna get home. Naruto pouted. Go home then. I'm a big boy, I'll survive. He flexed a bicep to prove his point. But you're drunk, protested Sakura, and who knows what you'll do if I leave. Just let me take you home. Naruto shook his head and pulled out of Sakura's grasp. He then plopped down his butt onto the ground. I don't want to go home yet, he yelled in a whiny childish voice. Sakura clenched her fists. She was beginning to get angry. Get the hell up. I want to go home. Then go home, yelled Naruto back at her, arms crossed over his chest. Get off the ground you stupid idiot before I. The inner Sakura was a lot scarier than what most people saw. Or maybe not. Uzumaki Naruto. Get off your fat ass, screamed Sakura, a fist raised in threat. Naruto violently shook his head. I don't wanna. There was a very twitchy pink-haired eyebrow going up and down. But Sakura was not yet ready to admit defeat. And why not? She had lowered her fist by now and let out a sigh. She repeated that mantra that Shizune told her and Tsunade to when they were angry: violence is not the answer. Violence is not the answer. Taking a deep breath, the girl refocused her attention on her teammate. Naruto. The boy slightly slumped his shoulders and looked to the floor. I don't feel like going back to my empty apartment just yet, mumbled Naruto softly. What? Sakura wasn't sure if she had heard right. Naruto shook his head and looked up with one of his goofy smiles. How about I walk you home? Said Naruto. You live right by here anyways. And I promise you that I'll get home safe and sound, K. Sakura let out another sigh. I guess I did hear right. But what did Naruto mean by that? He usually never says anything that is remotely sad or depressing. Now she wasn't sure her teammate was quite so drunk as he seemed. All of a sudden she felt her whole body being lifted off the ground as Naruto picked her up. To infinity and beyond, he cried and ran through the streets and towards her house. Never mind. Sakura took it back, he was drunk after all. Sasuke dropped his kunai when he heard the sound getting closer and closer. What the hell is that? Singing. Oh baby, baby, how was I supposed to know? That something wasn't right here. The key was horribly off and words slurred. Oh god, he knew that voice. Sasuke heard it every single day. What the hell is Naruto doing out by the training grounds at this time of night? And why the heck is he singing? Sasuke turned towards the deafening noise to see Naruto strutting into the clearing. Hit me baby 1-0. Saasuuka. Naruto slurred the last bit more than usual. Sasuke stared at the other boy in disbelief. Is he drunk? He watched as Naruto began walking up to him, stumbling slightly with each step. Naruto. What the hell? A disgusted sneer rose to Sasuke's face. Yuto was only a couple meters away from him when he came to a stop. I can see you, he hiccuped as he pointed at Sasuke, who in turn rolled his eyes. Go home. You're drunk. Really? Asked Naruto dumbfounded. But I didn't drink that much. The blonde stared at his rival. You know, Sasuke. Naruto walked right up to the other boy, which was a little too close in Sasuke's opinion. Then he slightly tilted his head and baby blue eyes stared right at Sasuke, who hated the close proximity. What? Sasuke said with a glare. Naruto only smiled. You look way prettier in the moonlight. For a second, Sasuke's eyes widened as his cheeks flushed slightly. He's drunk, Sasuke reminded himself as he turned away from Naruto, who was still staring at him intently. Wait, prettier. Sasuke flinched. You're drunk, he said aloud to reassure himself. No, I'm not drunk. I came here to... Oh, what did I come here for again? Oh right, I came here to stare at the stars, rambled Naruto. Sasuke sighed. Come on, let's go, he commanded as he began dragging the blonde. Ah, not you too. Naruto tried to resist but wasn't nearly as strong as he was when he wasn't intoxicated. Sasuke smirked at the struggling Naruto, who obviously thought he could break free from Sasuke's hold. Sasuke, let me go. I don't wanna go home. Suddenly, Naruto opened his mouth wide and clamped it over Sasuke's arm and sunk his teeth into the pale, alabaster skin. Arg, damn it Naruto, the dark-haired boy cried in pain. Sasuke quickly smacked his teammate over the head, who instantly passed out. Sasuke picked him up and threw him over his shoulder. Damn it, he said again as he looked at his bleeding arm. Who knew Naruto had such sharp teeth? Sasuke dug into Naruto's pocket to look for the boy's keys when he reached Naruto's apartment building. Where are they? Grumbled Sasuke to himself as he searched the boy. He tried Naruto's apartment door again. It was locked. Sasuke dropped Naruto onto the ground and lightly smacked him to wake him up. Naruto, where the hell are your keys? The boy didn't flinch. Sasuke tried again. Naruto, your keys. Nothing. Getting a little aggravated, this time Sasuke gave the other boy a slight punch to the stomach. Ah, was the only sound that came out of Naruto. Crap, thought Sasuke, what am I going to do with him? He nudged the boy lying on the floor, who again gave no response. The Chunin sighed and leaned Naruto against the wall. That was it, Sasuke had enough of this nonsense, he was just going to leave him there. As Sasuke was about to leave, he felt a tug on his leg. The boy looked back to see his teammate holding onto his leg. Let me go. Naruto's eyes were closed as if he was still sleeping, but he refused to let go. Sasuke bent down to pry off the tanned fingers that were holding on so tightly. As he released himself from Naruto, he began to hear a strange rumbling. He looked up to realize what a mistake he had made. Naruto's mouth opened wide for the second time that night, but this time it wasn't to bite Sasuke. No, it was to barf. All over Sasuke and himself. Bright blue eyes opened too. Find an unknown and strange surrounding. Where am I? Thought Naruto. He sat up only to feel a sudden sharp pain in his head. Ah! He groaned, clutching the back of his head. His eyes wandered the room from the futon he seemed to have slept on. It looked like he was in a house. And whoever owned it was definitely someone with no taste whatsoever. There weren't any decorations on the walls, barely any furniture or anything. Well, it wasn't like Naruto had much in his apartment, but at least his place looked somewhat cheery. This just looked so sad. Naruto found a glass of water next to him and quickly gulped down the entire glass. His mouth had just felt so dry. He pushed back the blanket and stood up. As the blonde looked down, he realized he wasn't even wearing his own clothes. He was a plain gray t-shirt and pajama pants. At least the person who dressed him at least had the decency to leave his boxers on. The blonde yawned and scratched his head. He noticed there was futon laid out in the room, which looked like it had been recently occupied. Naruto started to walk towards the futon curiously when he felt a sudden pressure on his bladder. "Ah, I have to go pee," yelled Naruto, clutching wildly down below. He hadn't taken a piss at all the night before and he was pretty sure he had drunk a lot. Running around frantically, Naruto slid open the first door within his reach. Clothes. He was in a closet. Craaap. Naruto quickly tried the other door, which luckily led into a hallway. Using all his might, he flung open the next door in sight. It was a bathroom. Yes, he cried in victory and was about to run into pee. That is, until he realized something was blocking his way. No, someone. Sasuke. A very beep Sasuke. 2 weeks till. There was nothing but silence as the two stood still in a stance, waiting for the other to attack. Finally, one decided to give in and run forward to attack. Naruto. Blank blue eyes blinked, looking at his opponent. What? The boy asked. Sakura sighed. She had run straight at Naruto with a kunai and he hadn't even flinched one bit. You seem a little distracted, she explained. The blonde gave a small grin and put one of his hands behind his head. Ah. What makes you say that? Sakura gently poked Naruto with the side of the kunai, which was right under his chin. I got you. Naruto seemed a little flustered. See, you are improving. Sakura lowered her arm and sighed. Naruto, you haven't been concentrating all day, what's bothering you? She asked. The boy shook his head as his eyebrows slightly furrowed. It's nothing, he said slowly looking towards the ground. Naruto, she whined. I thought we agreed that we could tell each other things. Don't worry, everything is fine, replied Naruto smiling widely. Come on, let's spar some more. The pink-hair girl nodded and stepped away as they began to spar. Since Ino and Shikamaru's party, Naruto had showed up at her door every day, asking if she wanted to train. Sakura didn't quite know why he would want to train with her, but it benefited her, so Sakura didn't ask. Even though they had only been training together for a week, the kunoichi thought she could already feel it starting to pay off. Sparring with a boy was a lot harder, she quickly found out. Naruto went easy on her at first, but soon he got comfortable to treating her as though she were a guy. Sakura found herself trying out different and new moves because Naruto was so unpredictable. Sakura was glad he wasn't treating her as if she was some delicate object who couldn't defend herself. Especially today, Sakura noticed that Naruto was all of a sudden fighting back a lot harder than he had before. Come on Sasuke, you can do better than that, Naruto suddenly snarled. Sakura jumped back and stared at the blonde with wide eyes. Naruto stood clueless for a moment before his face showed any sign of what he had just said. Ah, Gomen, Sakura-chan, cried Naruto reddening. I'm just so used to seeing Sasuke when I fight that it kinda just slipped out. Hinata felt a kink in her neck and stepped away from the tree she had been hiding behind to stretch. She had been crouched in an uncomfortable position for about an hour or so. The shy girl loosened her limbs before returning to the tree once again. There he was, panting and hair gleaming in the sunlight. And there she was, laughing and sitting in the grass with him. Hinata could feel the pang of jealousy run through her. Why couldn't that be her with Naruto, laughing and talking? Instead, he was with Sakura. The Hyuga heir had been following Naruto all week, trying to gather up the courage to finally ask him out. Or at least tell him that she liked him. If Naruto was going to beat someone before his birthday, which was in 2 weeks, she wanted it to be her. Hinata sighed. She knew she would have to make a move or else she was forever going to hide in the shadows. If she didn't do something soon, she'd never be able to do anything at all. With a deep breath, Hinata stood up and prepared herself to head into the open. As she was about to take a step forward, she suddenly got a glimpse of what looked like someone hiding in the trees across from her. It seemed that Hinata wasn't the only one watching Naruto and Sakura. The shy girl took a step back, feeling a little unnerved. Maybe she should just wait for another day. Gathering the courage was already enough for today. Besides, it didn't look like the other person was going to come out of his shadows either. Naruto sighed as he sat on the stool at Ichiraku's, waiting for his ramen. His training today had definitely not been one of his hardest, but for some reason he found himself tired. He watched with hungry eyes as the delicious-smelling ramen was placed in front of him. "Thanks, Oji-chan," he said, smiling. The restaurant owner smiled back at him. "Eat lots, Naruto-kun. Your stomach was growling so loud, we heard it even miles away." Naruto laughed and nodded before beginning to inhale his food. Training with Sakura was interesting, all right. Helpful somewhat, but probably more useful to her than himself. Naruto knew he should take the opportunity to help Sakura advance in his taijutsu, but that wasn't his main motivator. It was because he still couldn't take his mind off that one moment and it was freaking him out. Naruto wasn't sure why the scene of Sasuke in the bathroom kept on playing over and over in his head, but it did. And that was a week ago. He still hadn't gotten over it yet. Why? The boy's chopsticks stilled as he continued to think. It was just those dark, captivating, smoldering eyes that drew him in. Not to mention Sasuke's creamy, smooth pale skin, screaming out to him to be touched. Naruto quickly grabbed his head with his hands. What the hell am I thinking? The blonde tried to shake the thoughts from his head, but there was just one image of Sasuke that wouldn't leave. It was of the other boy standing in the middle of the bathroom with a peaceful and serene face as he ran his hand through his wet hair. It was out to torture to Naruto. Why was Naruto all of a sudden enraptured by his rival of all people? He couldn't understand it at all. It was just something about the way he looked so calm and the way there was no trace of that sarcastic smirk. Goddamn, why did Sasuke have to be so beautiful? Naruto clenched his fist and closed his eyes as he took deep, long breaths. Must not think about Sasuke. The blonde snapped his head up only to hit the ramen bowl and send it flying. OWW, complained Naruto as he clutched his head and saw a familiar figure out of the corner of his eye. Iruka-sensei. His old teacher only laughed at him. Naruto, I didn't think you'd still be such a klutz after all this time. But you surprised me, defended Naruto. Iruka smiled. I only came to ask you something, but since you're eating, I thought I'd join you. Naruto pointed to the seat next to him as Iruka sat down. Iruka-sensei, you owe me another bowl of ramen, but what is it that you wanted to ask? Well, I was just wondering if you had seen Sasuke-kun lately. His former teacher explained. Naruto slightly tensed. No. He paused. Wait a minute. Sasuke isn't even your student anymore. Why are you asking about him? What? Why can't I ask about an ex-student? Besides, it's not just me, it's Kakashi-sensei too, exclaimed Iruka. Kakashi-sensei too? You were talking to Kakashi-sensei? Asked Naruto, his face contorting in confusion. He didn't know Iruka and Kakashi even knew each other. Iruka flushed. Well, I'll have you know we just happened to be at the same. Hey. Why does it matter to you anyways? Naruto laughed. It doesn't. If I had known you would get all touchy about it. Geez. Naruto turned his head away from Iruka, who in turn sighed. Sorry Naruto. How have things been lately anyways? The blonde scratched his head. Well, I've been doing a lot about thinking, he replied honestly. It was Iruka after all. About? Asked the Chunin seriously. Naruto stopped scratching, and suddenly lifted his head to look Iruka straight in the eye. How old were you when you had your first beep? Sakura had stayed longer to train some more after Naruto had left. During the past week, the girl felt more and more motivated to improve her skills. She wanted to become useful and actually help during a mission, instead of always being the backup. This is the first time in a while since either Naruto or Sasuke has really paid attention to me. Just me, realized Sakura. Most of the time, they were always so self-absorbed that they were too busy concentrating on each other. Not to mention whenever one of them felt the need to train, which was every single day, it was no question who they would go to ask. They always immediately went to each other. Sakura could even remember the rare occasion where she would see Sasuke and Naruto alone talking or even eating ramen. Over the years they had become so close and didn't let anyone in, if only they would just notice. Was it wrong that Sakura wanted to be a part of that? She badly wanted to join them and be the one they came to when they wanted to train. But deep down she knew that it was impossible to be as close to her teammates as they were to each other. Two's company but three's a crowd. Sakura sighed as stopped her shuriken practice and sat down on the grass. That thought, she said to herself, almost makes it seem like they're a couple. Despite of once being helplessly in love with Sasuke, she laughed and wasn't disgusted. Though it was wrong, even Sakura had to admit that her two teammates would look good together. Naruto was growing up and had even started to develop a charming look that could make anyone smile. While Sasuke was just damn gorgeous. In his dark, cold, stoic-looking way of course. Together, they were so opposite which made them in a weird way, complete. The pink-haired girl rolled her eyes for thinking such thoughts. She was sure they wouldn't appreciate her thinking about them together. Sakura got up off the grass to work on her shuriken practice again. Naruto would be so proud. That's strange, thought Sakura. The other days of this week Naruto had gone with her to eat afterwards, but today he claimed he was tired. Sakura could barely recall a moment when Naruto had ever said he was tired. Something had to be on his mind. Sakura had noticed that he had been acting differently all week. Naruto had been a little bit quieter and always seemed to be off in space, thinking about something. That's when Sakura realized it. He likes me. That would make a lot of sense. He has been hanging around with me a lot lately, and whenever I asked him what he was thinking about, he would blush. The girl giggled to herself. She thought the blonde would be over his silly crush by now. That wasn't to say she wasn't completely over Sasuke, but lately she found herself not wanting to swoon over her teammate any longer. It's the only logical reason as to why Naruto has been acting strange. Sakura had almost convinced herself that Naruto liked her. What else were the signs pointing to? And for some reason, Sakura didn't feel disgusted or any pity for the blonde. She felt flattered, and she liked it. Sasuke shoved his hands in his pockets as he walked through the streets. He kept his head down but could still feel the stares coming from the villagers as they went about at their business. What do they want? Thought Sasuke as he walked down another street that was less crowded. Though the looks made him uncomfortable, he was used to it. It had been happening all his life. Look, there's the last Uchiha, one girl whispered to another. No way, the last. Yeah, isn't he hot? Hell yeah, I wonder if he's single. The girl giggled. I think so, but every girl has already tried asking him out. Nothing works. What? I'd give anything to have a chance with him. I said no one has gotten through. What? Not even guys? Hey giggled even more but stopped when they met an icy glare. Their mouths quickly snapped shut. Sasuke continued his stalk through the village. Why couldn't they just find someone else to swoon over? Why me? Thought Sasuke. It's annoying and a waste of their time. Sasuke-kun. The dark-haired boy growled. Not again. Sasuke-kun. Wait, I have something to ask you. The boy looked up to see Sakura running towards him. Damn, her. I don't want to hear it now. What? He almost snapped, but then he noticed she hadn't leached herself onto his arm. Have you seen Naruto? Sasuke felt himself stiffen. He was slightly surprised. Naruto. When had Sakura ever asked for Naruto? Yeah, I need to talk to him, Sakura explained casually. Sasuke shook his head. No, I haven't seen him. No, he hadn't seen Naruto. Not for a long time. The dark-haired boy didn't even know why Naruto was avoiding him. Had something bothered him? Could it have been because Sasuke took care of him while he was drunk? Oh, replied Sakura. Well, if you see him, could you tell him I'm looking for him? Wait, thought Sasuke, weren't they with each other just a while ago? I know I saw them together. He felt his fist clenching slightly. I'm looking for him too. Oh, what for? Asked Sakura curiously. Sasuke sighed annoyed. Why did he always have to explain himself to her? So what if he want Ed to see that ridiculously blonde hair and hear that irritating voice? Did he have to announce it to the world? Let's go, said Sasuke in a tone that would make sure that Sakura wouldn't cry any further. Okay, replied Sakura and fell into step behind him as they began to search. Tell me Iruka-sensei. Iruka shook his head for the millionth time. Naruto was still bugging him, and as they left Ichiraku's Naruto walked ahead onto the bridge in front of them. Iruka sighed. Why do you want to know anyways, Naruto? Iruka asked. The boy shrugged. Just cause. Iruka rolled his eyes. It was obvious that the boy had something on his mind and it wasn't just anything. I'll tell you, began the brown-haired man. Naruto spun around and grinned. Yes, I'm listening. When you're 16, finished Iruka. Naruto threw his hands up. Iruka-sensei. He huffed and stuck out his tongue. Iruka laughed. If you want to ask someone about this kind of stuff, you should ask Kakashi-sensei. He's better at this stuff than me. That pervert. Ew. No way, exclaimed Naruto. Iruka cringed. He's not that perverted, defended Iruka. Yeah, how would you know? You don't see him almost every day like I do. The man clearly blushed and cleared his throat. Naruto, how's your training? He said, hoping to change the subject and avoid further embarrassment. The blonde didn't notice and began to talk. Oh, you know, he began and started to talk about a new jutsu he was hoping to master. Iruka nodded but didn't listen as something else had caught his attention. He swore he thought he just saw someone up ahead creeping around on the other side of the bridge. Ah, Naruto, interrupted Iruka. The blonde stopped as Iruka dragged him off the bridge and behind a tree. Shish, someone's coming. Naruto gave him a weird look and crouched silently beside him. They waited until they heard the sound of footsteps. Naruto peeked around the tree and let out the breath of air he was holding. Iruka-sensei, why were you worried? It was only Sasuke and Sakura, laughed Naruto as he stepped out from behind the tree. Iruka joined him to see Sasuke and Sakura walking up towards them. Naruto. They both breathed at the same time. Iruka gave them a confused look but they obviously didn't even see him there. Both of their eyes were trained at the same spot. On Naruto. 10 days till. In the still of the night. First it was Sasuke, who sat up in his bed, unable to get back to sleep. He climbed out of bed and walked towards the window and sat on the sill. Leaning his back along one side, a leg pushed up against the other, he stared at the moon. It had been the first time in a while since he hadn't had a nightmare. It was also the first time in a while since he had a dream. But this wasn't what had Sasuke surprised, it was that he was in his dream, and only him. Hinata was next. She had awoken just when her dream was beginning to get good. She let out a small sigh as she took a sip of water from the glass on her night table. The dark-haired girl flushed and smiled as she remembered her dream. If only she could get the courage to do that in real life, but then again. If she had that courage, Hinata would do a lot of things. If only. Naruto, Sasuke, Naruto, Sasuke, chanted Sakura over and over in her head. The girl knew her NT and need for Sasuke was actually beginning to die out, but that didn't mean she still wasn't attracted to him. Seriously, who wouldn't be? But then there was Naruto. God, she was lucky. Not only did she have one hot guy on her team, she had two. Naruto had never really appealed to her that much, but lately, Sakura found herself wanting more and more of the blonde. Opening her eyes, she stared at the ceiling as her mind began to run away with her. Ooh, Naruto really is becoming a piece of hot stuff. Why didn't I notice this before? Inner Sakura rambled, but luckily, we're spending all this time together so I can make a move. I'm pretty sure he already likes me, but he's probably just shy. The only thing standing in the way is Sasuke. Sakura shifted and turned on her side. It was true. If there was anything in the way, it was Sasuke. He was their teammate and friend and he might even be jealous. She didn't want to upset the Uchiha but Sakura did want a boyfriend. I mean, come on. She was 16 years old now and had not even once had a boyfriend. Even Ino had beat her to it. Besides, it wasn't that Naruto wasn't kind, funny and good looking. He was, in fact, everything and anything a girl could want in a boyfriend. The pink-haired girl sprang up from her bed in excitement. Hell yeah, she cried to herself, what am I waiting for? But Sakura couldn't help but think of him. Just why had she beat him back then? Sakura began to pace her room. It was cruel of her to not say a thing and leave the poor boy hanging, but then again, he still acted the same as always. She should just give him a try. No, screamed inner Sakura, you can't. It just wouldn't be right. You don't like him that way. Sakura sighed. Gomen Lee-san, she said to herself and began to plan for Naruto's arrival. Her new mission: to make Naruto her boyfriend. Then it was Kiba who awoke next. He was staring at the figure in bed next to him. Smiling, the boy lifted a hand to lightly stroke the hair of his partner. Kiba was glad the other snuck into his house for a late-night visit and hoped there would be more in the future. He let out a small sigh as he stopped stroking and wrapped his arm around the other. If only they didn't have to hide their relationship. If only they didn't have to pretend that they were only friends, if only. The truth of the matter was that Kiba didn't mind if other people knew. In fact, he wanted to tell, but he knew he would be in deep shit if he did. Instead, he acted as if everything was normal when it wasn't. He hated when he had to hide his emotions, especially when he couldn't keep the grin off his face whenever this special person was around. Kiba felt a slight stirring beneath his arm as a hand intertwined with his and pulled him closer. He closed his eyes, but then again, it was all worth it. Lastly, it was Naruto, who let out 3 sneezes in a row, which woke him up from his sleep. You know how you sneeze when someone thinks of you. He turned onto his side and pulled his blanket closer to him. He could never get much sleep on the last day of a mission because he was always anticipating what came after. When he would get to go home. Naruto smiled to himself when he thought of the people that would be waiting for him. Sakura, Kakashi-sensei, Iruka-sensei, Tsunade Baba, Jiraiya, Sasuke. Naruto sighed. If only he wasn't a hormonal boy. He didn't know if it was normal, but he couldn't stop picturing Sasuke with his clothes off whenever he saw his rival. Okay, he lied. He pictured Sasuke with his lofts off even when he wasn't around him either. God, was he sick? Naruto didn't know. All he knew was that he had to avoid Sasuke to get the sick, perverted thoughts out of his head. For Pete's sake, he was thinking about another boy. Naruto rolled to his other side and looked out of the inn's window. This was unhealthy. It was only a beep body, why should it bother him? He had seen many beep bodies countless times before and he had never spent this much time thinking about it. It was just attraction, Naruto decided. Only attraction. Sasuke was good looking and could even be mistaken for a girl, right? So anyone could and should be attracted to Sasuke. In fact, Naruto wouldn't be normal if he wasn't attracted to Sasuke. Yes, it was only right to be attracted to him. The blonde let out another cry. Why did his rival have to be so damn pretty? Ugh, cried Naruto aloud, damn it Sasuke. Twisting and turning, Naruto finally came to a conclusion. This is just a phase, he said to himself, I mean, a second ago. You thought Sakura was the hottest thing around. Now it's just Sasuke. Look all you want and be done with him. Find someone new. Naruto frustratedly closed his eyes. Maybe if he just gave in a little bit, it would go away. The next day. 9 days till. Thanks Oja-san, yelled Naruto as he walked away from Ichiraku's. Hinata lurched from the shadows watching as he slowly wandered around town. He didn't even notice her presence. Not that he ever did, she had followed him on countless occasions without him finding out. Hinata quickly hid behind a tree. She saw Naruto stop in the park to lie in the grass. The girl couldn't help but blush while watching her crush lie carelessly with a content smile upon his face. His eyes were closed and the sly breeze blew his hair from side to side. Closing her own eyes, she decided to work out her plan in her head. First she would walk up to him, slowly, step by step. Hello Naruto-kun, she envisioned herself saying. I want to tell you something. Then she would look into his beautiful blue eyes and say, I like you. From there, Hinata had no idea how it would go, but she would have to take a chance. Stepping away from the tree, she slowly approached him. Naruto-kun, she stumbled as she stood by him. He opened up one eye and smiled. Hinata, how are you? No mission today. She shook her head. No, not at all. Naruto sat up and patted the spot next to him. Want to join me? He asked. Hinata flushed and slowly nodded. She carefully tried to sit down while calming her shaky legs. It's a nice day, isn't it? She nodded and sneaked a peek sideways at Naruto. Her heart began beating faster and faster. So, Hinata, What brings you to the park? He had turned to look at her now. She wanted to keep the gaze and look into his eyes forever but was too shy. No, cried her inner Hinata, you have to do it. You have to show him how you feel. Feeling a new strength surge through her. The white eyes turned back to the blue ones. Steadying her hands on the ground, she slowly brought her face towards his. Closer. And closer. Naruto looked at her with confusion, but Hinata had gone too far to care. She was almost there, only a couple more inches. Naruto! Screamed a voice that brought Hinata back to reality. When she realized how close she was to the blonde, she sprung back. Ah! She began nervously. Naruto! Hinata-chan! Called out Sakura as she ran towards them. What are you two up to? Naruto looked towards Hinata, still confused. What was she trying to do back there? Was there something on his face? She had turned a dark red by now. Man, that Hinata was definitely weird and he could never understand her. He turned towards Sakura, who had just shown up. Hey Sakura-chan. I'm doing nothing. Just looking at the sky. How about you? The girl smiled. Nothing. Actually, I was looking for you. Really? Why? I was wondering if you wanted to go train today. I was working hard by myself the days you were on a mission, so you have to come and see how much I've improved. Grinning, she gestured him up. Naruto slightly shook his head. Ah, sorry, I just ate and I have to meet Iruka-sensei in 15 minutes. He always makes me check up with him after a mission. But how about after? The girl nodded eagerly. All right, that sounds great. I'll probably be there already, so just meet me. She waved to Naruto and then to the poor forgotten Hinata. See y'all later. Then Sakura ran off. Naruto stood up. Ah, Gomen, Hinata. I have to go meet Iruka-sensei now. I'll talk to you later. She nodded, having not changed in color. Naruto walked away, leaving a poor deflated Hinata all alone. Sasuke jumped from rooftop to rooftop. Where is he? Where is the Dobi? Thought Sasuke. It had always been a silent mutual agreement that they spar, but lately, Naruto hadn't asked Sasuke at all. That had bothered the stoic boy. It almost seemed as if Naruto had been avoiding him. Sasuke shrugged the thought from his mind. Naruto had just come back from a 3-day mission. Maybe he was back to normal and would be willing to fight. There he is, Sasuke said to himself as he spotted the blonde walking away from the academy. Naruto looked a little startled as he saw Sasuke leap from the roof and land in front of him, but he quickly covered it up with a grin. Sasuke, what are you doing, creeping around? He asked with a smirk. Sasuke crossed his arms over his chest. I don't creep, Dobi. Then why were you running around on the rooftops? The dark-haired boy shrugged. No reason, he replied. Naruto rolled his eyes. Well then, I'll see y'all later, said Naruto as he walked past Sasuke, who clenched his fist. Why didn't he want to spar with him? Sasuke was sure Naruto knew that was why he had stopped him. Then Sasuke clenched his fist even tighter. Why did he even care? Naruto. Sasuke ground out his name. The B. Londa turned around to face him once again. What? A confused look across his face. Fight me. Sasuke looked at him with those eyes he would never show anyone else. Naruto flinched and shifted his eyes to avoid contact. His cheeks were slightly tinted pink. I can't. Naruto let out quietly, though it seemed as if he were contradicting himself. Why, Dobi, you afraid you're going to lose? Taunted Sasuke. Naruto looked back at him angrily. I would never lose. Especially not to you. Well then, prove it. Fine, I will. Let's go. Naruto stopped, then sighed. Ah, actually I can't. I already promised Sakura-chan that I would practice with her. What? Snapped Sasuke angrily. I can't just leave her. She asked me first, explained Naruto. Sasuke grabbed Naruto by the collar and slammed him into the nearest building wall. Sasuke, let me go, cried Naruto, but he didn't struggle. Instead he was looking back at Sasuke, whose face was now only inches away. Sasuke didn't know why he was reacting this way. Why was he getting so emotional? This was so unlike him. He let go of Naruto, who fell in a heap to the ground. Geez, Sasuke, don't get all prissy on me. Sasuke looked at Naruto, with almost a hurt look in his eyes. Would you rather spend time with her than me? Sure, Sakura had gotten better but still was nothing compared to Sasuke. Why did Sasuke have to say that? Cried Naruto to himself because now he couldn't stop thinking about Sasuke's words. The truth was that Sakura was more than a teammate, she was like a sister to him and he cared about her deeply. But Sasuke, he was someone different. He was constantly at the center of Naruto's attention. He was by his side at almost every battle they had to fight. They were willing to die for each other, which Sasuke proved when they had fought Zabuza and Haku. Naruto couldn't explain it but Sasuke meant a lot to him. And though Sasuke was an emotionless bastard, Naruto was pretty sure Sasuke cared for him too. Even if it was just a teeny tiny bit. Naruto. Sakura's voice snapped him back to reality. He blinked his eyes and turned to the direction of the voice. Sakura-chan, sorry, I was spacing out, he replied with a slight laugh. She looked concerned. Something wrong? She asked. Naruto gave her a grin and shook his head. Nah, I'm fine. Wah, how do you make such good food? Cried Naruto, changing the subject. He once again began eating away at the food that Sakura had made for him. Though he was a little surprised that she had brought food for him in the first place. It's just a gift, she said laughing. And if you think this is good, you should try my pie sometime. Naruto nodded vigorously and placed the bento box on the grass on the other side of him and took a sip of water. Blue eyes scanned the training grounds. There was nothing but him, Sakura and the woods. No one else was around. So Naruto. Once again Sakura's voice broke through Naruto's thoughts. As suddenly aware of how close Sakura was to him. He gulped. Nani? His teammate was merely inches away. When had she gotten that close to him? Does anyone ever tell you how good looking you're getting? Sakura asked, her voice lower than usual. Naruto's eyes widened. What was Sakura getting at? He shook his head. And no. Naruto turned to Sakura with confusion. She only leaned closer. "'Cause you are," she whispered, causing them both to blush. Especially with that golden blonde hair, blue eyes, nice body. Naruto could feel his face reddening by the moment. Why was Sakura teasing him like this all of a sudden? Sakura-chan. That was when she placed a hand on his thigh. Naruto, you know, I was silly not to respond to you when we were younger, and you had that big crush on me. She said in what she thought was seductive and brought her other hand up to gently run through his hair. I don't think this is. It's okay Naruto. I know you want me, she whispered into his ear. Naruto took a deep breath to calm down, but that hand of Sakura's was beginning to venture places no hand had yet to venture. Sasuke. It was the first word that came to mind. What about Sasuke? She said slowly. Her hand pulled back. He would. Naruto didn't know what to say. He still wasn't sure why his rival's name came out of his mouth in the first place. He would what? There was an annoyed tone in Sakura's voice. He wouldn't like this. I wouldn't like this, thought Naruto. Who cares what Sasuke thinks? Snapped back Sakura, pouting as she drew back completely. Naruto let out a deep breath. Well, Sasuke is our teammate. And, you're not the one I think about. I guess. Well, Sakura's eyebrows were furrowing as she attempted to figure out what was happening. Naruto stood up. You know, it's getting a little late. How about I walk you home? He gave her a soft smile and gestured towards the direction of home. Sakura slowly nodded and gathered everything up. Okay, let's go. It was in the middle of the night when Kiba snuck out of his house. Moving quickly and silently, he ran down his street without disturbing anyone. He was excited and couldn't wait to get there. Though, it was weird to be without Akamaru, he was sure the dog wouldn't want to be where he was headed. As he was checking to make sure the street was clear, he didn't want to get in trouble with his parents. He spotted a figure moving up ahead of him. Damn, thought Kiba, that person is in my way. And I don't want to have to go the long way around. Deciding to take the chance, Kiba slowly made his way down the street, sticking to the shadows. Who's there? Called out a voice through the darkness. Kiba groaned. He'd been caught. As he tried to run away, he noticed whoever it was chasing after him. Damn, it has to be a shinobi. Kiba noted. Suddenly, Kiba felt himself being pinned to the ground. Kiba, a surprised voice. Naruto. The dog Nin was equally surprised. What are you doing here? They asked each other at the same time. Naruto got off Kiba and offered him a hand. Couldn't sleep, answered Naruto. Ah. Yeah. Me too, he replied as he took Naruto's hand to get up. Kiba was glad it was dark out, or Naruto would have been able to see lie all over his face. Kiba was an awful liar. Why did you chase me? Asked Kiba. Naruto turned his head. I thought you were someone else, he mumbled to himself. Silence. Something wrong. Kiba was a little curious now. Naruto shook his head. Have some things on my mind, that's all. How about you, Kiba? The boy grinned a toothy grin. Nah, everything's been all good, he replied honestly. What do you mean? Asked Naruto curiously. You seem happier than usual. Well yeah, I have been. It's great to have someone there, he thought. Huh, apparently Naruto didn't get it. Never mind, Kiba groaned, it wasn't worth explaining to a dunce. What? No, tell me, it's great to what? Be a shinobi, eat ramen. What? Naruto cried. He placed his hands on Kiba's shoulders. Tell me. Just think about it, was all Kiba was willing to offer. The blonde stared at Kiba while the wheels in his brain began to work. It was another moment before Naruto finally realized. God, he's slow, thought Kiba. The blonde gasped and pointed. It's someone, isn't it? The bewildered and shocked look on Naruto's face made Kiba laugh. Maybe, he replied teasingly. How could you get lucky before me? Kiba laughed even harder. It's obvious. I'm way better looking than you. This time Naruto didn't reply. Kiba stopped laughing. What? Naruto let out a sigh. You're lucky, Naruto said slowly while looking away. Kiba just shrugged. Yeah, but you can find someone too. I'm sure there's someone who likes you, said Kiba giving him a pat on the shoulder. Well, I dunno. Hinata and Sakura were really acting weird today. And Sasuke, he mumbled to himself. Sasuke, thought Kiba, he mentions Hinata and Sakura and then Sasuke. Whoa, what's going on here? What do you mean, and Sasuke? Kiba asked while giving a grin. Naruto smacked his hand over his mouth. I said that aloud. His blue eyes were wide with terror. Yup, the blonde groaned and placed a hand behind his head before trying to laugh it off. I just said Sasuke cause he was acting really weird today too, Naruto tried to explain. Sure. Hey, what are you trying to say, Kiba? Cried Naruto defensively, his hands on his hips. The other boy laughed. Nothing. It better be, said Naruto before changing the subject. So, who is this girl? Tell me. Kiba shook his head. No way. The blonde pouted. What? Who is she? Hinata. Kiba only shook his head firmly. Ah, come on, at least tell me what it was like to beep her. Naruto pushed out his lips in a way that made him look like a fish. Was it like this? Kiba rolled his eyes as Naruto imitated beeping sounds. Come on Kiba, what was it like beeping her? Kiba smirked and looked Naruto straight in the eye. Whoever said I beep at a girl? 6 days till. Are you sure it's alright if he knows? Don't worry about it. It's just like you not to worry. What if he says something? Shino takes hand. I trust Naruto, he wouldn't say anything. I trust you. You better. Silence. Kiba places his head on Shino's chest. Besides. What? I think. Naruto is with. Yeah. Shino runs a hand through Kiba's hair gently. Does he? No. Soon. Definitely. Shikamaru Naru lay peacefully on a hill as he watched the clouds, away from the noise of the village. That is, until Uzumaki Naruto found him. Oi, Shikamaru. Got room for another there? Shikamaru grunted. No. Naruto didn't notice and sat down next to him anyway. It's a little cloudy today, he said suddenly. Yeah, so. Naruto joined Shikamaru and lay down. Yet you're still here on this hill staring up into the sky. And your point is? Naruto didn't answer back, which Shikamaru thought strange for the usually loud, rambunctious nin. Naruto. What? Shikamaru sighed. I like the peace and quiet. He hoped that was enough to answer the blonde's question. Besides, Shikamaru didn't want to bother with long explanations that were too tiresome. Nay, Shikamaru. The other grunted in reply. How come you're going out with Ino-chan then? She's the opposite of peace and quiet. I like her, answered Shikamaru bluntly. How did you know when you liked her? Asked Naruto. Shikamaru sighed. He was beginning to get too tiring. Why is Naruto asking all these questions anyway, thought Shikamaru. I guess, I knew when I thought about her all the time. Her face, her smile, even that annoying voice. But the main reason, I knew I would risk my life for her, no matter how troublesome. Risk your life, squeaked out Naruto. Shikamaru closed his eyes. Yes, is that all? Are you finished? I would like to rest, Shikamaru said to the blonde. He could hear as Naruto opened his mouth to say a word but then stopped. Yeah, that's all. Hinata sadly walked around Konoha wondering what to do. It was almost Naruto's birthday and she wanted to show him her affection before then. But how? Her last attempt hadn't worked out very well and he didn't seem to have a clue about what she was trying to tell him. If only Hinata were brave enough to say it out loud. Hinata-san, called out a voice. The girl turned to the side to see Rock Lee and her cousin Neji walking up to her. Ohio, Lee-san. She turned to him and gave him a slight nod and then turned to Neji, Neji-ni-san. Why the sad look on your face earlier? Asked Lee. Hinata slightly shook her head and looked down. Ah, no, it's nothing. She could feel Neji staring at her and kept looking down. Are you sure, or is it just love problems? Asked Lee seriously. Hinata could feel her face beginning to flush. Ah, so it is, cried Lee. Is there something I could help you with? The guy with the really big eyebrows wanted to help her. Hinata was about to shake her head but she stopped herself before she could. Her earlier attempt hadn't worked earlier. Maybe Lee could give her a good suggestion. It might just work. Lee-san, she stumbled nervously, maybe you can. Lee gave a huge grin and his nice guy pose. No problem. With Rock Lee here to help you, everything's going to be fine now. Hinata couldn't help but giggle. Lee came from Neji, who obviously did. NT want to be talking about this but the other boy ignored him. So, who is it? Hinata shook her head too embarrassed to say. That's okay, said Lee. Are you having trouble trying to tell him you like him? She nodded shyly. I've tried, but he never notices. Lee nodded along intensely. I know what you're talking about, it's hard isn't it? Hinata looked at him. Lee-san too. The Chunin sighed and his eyebrows lowered. I always try to let her know that I like her but Sakura-san never seems to notice. Even though there was this one time. He stopped and looked at the two Byakugan users embarrassed. Sorry. Here I am talking about my troubles when I'm supposed to be helping Hinata-san. It's okay, replied Hinata. Why you shouldn't give up, Lee-san. I'm sure Sakura-san would like you too. The eyebrows lifted up. That's right, I just have to show her my love. He exclaimed, pumping a fist into the air. He then turned back to Hinata. You too. We can't give up yet. We have to fight till the end. Hinata nodded. Right, okay, let's go and show them. He delcared and began walking off, gesturing Hinata to come with him. Neji sighed and looked at the two sick shinobi and slowly followed, hoping they would snap back to reality sometime soon so he could train. Naruto lay on his bed with his hands behind his head, staring at the ceiling. He was glad there were less requests for missions at the moment. It was nice to get time to himself for a change, but lately that time alone had led to thinking. And there were exactly two things on Naruto's mind right now. Love and Sasuke. Naruto was still confused about what exactly Kiba had told him. Kiba had said he was in love, whatever that means, but more importantly it was who he had said he was in love with. Shino. Naruto had remembered the shock that went through his mind. In fact, it was still going through his mind. Kiba was in love with Shino. Kiba had asked Naruto not to tell anyone because everyone would accept this kind of thing. Naruto promised, but he still had some questions of his own. It wasn't the fact that Shino was a boy, he just wanted to know why Shino. Was it his personality? Attraction? The only thing Kiba had said was, "You'll find out soon enough," and that was it. What did Kiba mean by that? Naruto had no idea. The second thing running through his mind. Sasuke. He hadn't had a chance to speak with him since that time. Would you rather spend time with her than me? Those words rang through Naruto's mind over and over again. It wasn't every day the Uchiha show his emotions, and for that split second, Naruto had seen it in Sasuke's eyes. Naruto sighed. Didn't Sasuke know that his feelings for Sakura were different? Sakura was like his sister, someone Naruto watched over and took care of. Though lately, Sakura had been acting a little weird. That kind of touching wasn't normal between the two. But other than that, Sakura didn't give Naruto that drive that Sasuke did. That burn, that passion. Sasuke was the only one that sizzled his fire. Naruto coughed aloud. What the hell was he thinking? Sizzle his fire. Man, was he a sap or what? He groaned and turned on his side. It was true though. Not only did Sasuke provoke him in a rivalry sort of way, he provoked him in another way as well. A turned-on way. Man, oh man, did Sasuke really sizzle his ire. With his goddamn gorgeous face and flawless skin, lean, tight body, silky, beautiful hair. Naruto mentally smacked himself and started a mantra in his head. He's your rival, he's your rival, he's your rival. Over and over again. Why exactly did he have to do this every single time? And keeping his distance with the other shinobi wasn't doing anything either. Keep your mind out of the gutter. He murmured to himself and buried his face into his pillow. How the hell did he exactly face the other every day and not have jumped him yet? He groaned. One way or another he would have to talk to Sasuke. He still had to settle the whole spending time business thing anyway. I'm just going to have to go and find him tomorrow, thought Naruto. Get it over with and then leave before my mind runs away with me. If I wait, the anticipation of seeing Sasuke would probably kill me. He sighed and cursed his hormones and let himself drift off to sleep. That is, not before letting his vivid imagination one more peek at the beauty that is Sasuke. The next day. 5 days till. Damn it. No sign of him anywhere, thought Sakura as she crouched up on a rooftop. Normally she would have been chatting with Ino. Having a nice girl's day, but lately, Sakura hadn't been normal. The realization that she had no boyfriend. The realization that Sasuke would always be impossible. The realization that Naruto wasn't. Sure, last time she had tried to make a move on him, he bailed, but he was probably shy. Sakura was pretty sure she had never seen Naruto with another girl. The pink locks swayed in the wind, which was picking up some speed. The clouds were forming overhead, spelling countless possibilities of a storm. An ominous feeling perhaps. Now Sakura, being the determined girl she was, jumped off the rooftop and continued her search for the scruff of blonde hair. Motivation of the fact that Naruto hadn't turned her down, drove Sakura on. That's right, girl, screamed inner Sakura. You're going to find him, and when you do, you're going to pin him down. He's going to be your boyfriend by the end of today, and that's that. A determined look and sly smile found its way onto Sakura's face. Come out wherever you are. Naruto, where is he? Though Hinata as she walked around. Ever since the talk she and Lee had, the Hyuga had felt a little more confident than usual. This time is going to be different, she thought to herself and began to search some more. Sakura, cried inner Lee, just wait till I find you. I'm going to make you mine. Inner Lee strikes an overly confident, nice guy pose. Doby. While everyone was looking for him, they all failed to look in the most obvious place. Naruto's apartment, where he was sleeping peacefully, except for his constant sneezing in his sleep. He would later get up in 2 hours and realize how much he had slept in. Then after having a graphic dream involving Sasuke, he would jump out of bed. Hopefully, he would make it in time. Sasuke struck the stump in front of him over and over again. Damn it, he thought. The dark-haired boy was getting impatient, hoping that the blonde would show up. If Naruto didn't show up soon, a lot of trees were going to die that day. Deep down Sasuke was still angry that Naruto chose to be in Sakura's presence rather than his sometimes. He wanted Naruto's vivid attention and his focus to be on him. Sasuke threw a kunai at the stump, hitting it dead in the center. He hadn't fought Naruto in a while and was itching to do so. Sasuke wanted a challenge. ND almost missed that rivalry that went on between them. But lately, Naruto didn't seem to be keeping up his end. He was in a daze a lot, tried not to look Sasuke in the eye and even blushed. Why, thought Sasuke, is there something about me that embarrasses him? The boy sighed. He wanted to know what was going through that blonde head and set it straight. He wanted Naruto to realize that Hold working on defeating Sasuke and thinking about him constantly. Little did he know Naruto already was. Sasuke suddenly spun around as he heard a rustle of leaves behind him. Naruto. He sighed. At the same time as the person walking into the clearing. It was Sakura. What was she doing here? Oh, Sasuke-kun, she smiled. Here it comes, thought Sasuke and mentally groaned. Where's Naruto? Sasuke felt a little taken aback. Since when had Sakura started wanting Naruto? Not here. Oh, came out her deflated answer. Is he meeting you later or something? Sasuke shrugged and didn't answer. Sasuke-kun. He went back to assaulting the stump before him, ignoring her completely. A moment passed before she spoke again. So is he or is he not? She asked with a sharper tone than usual. Why don't you ask him? A hint of a glare was sparking behind her eyes. I would, but I don't know where he is, she replied through clenched teeth. Sasuke rolled his eyes. She was beginning to get annoying. Go look for him. Out of the corner of his eye he could see her fists beginning to clench. Why don't you just tell me where he is, she snapped. Sasuke turned towards her with a cold face. Why would I? Sasuke knew she was his comrade and somewhat friend, but for some reason he didn't want her finding Naruto. He didn't want her all over the blonde, touching and flirting. His glare deepened and she returned it. Sasuke. She left off the kun. The pink-haired girl was obviously getting pissed. You'll tell me where Naruto is even if I have to get it out of you. Sasuke could have laughed. Was the girl actually trying to threaten him? Over Naruto. She didn't even deserve a response. That was obviously the stupidest thing that Sasuke had ever heard. Why don't you want me with Naruto? Is it because he might want to spend more time with me than you? Sakura taunted at him. Sasuke could feel some heat coming into his face. He didn't care if the blonde would want to spend time with her or not. Well, that was what Sasuke's mind was saying, but his heart was a different issue. Those things don't matter to me. The fire in their eyes growing. Well, when I become Naruto's girlfriend, he's going to be spending less and less time with you. I know it will matter to you then. Sasuke. Sasuke could feel his inner bitch slowly rising to the surface, not that it wasn't there the whole time. Boyfriend. Even he's not that stupid. Sakura stamped her foot angrily. That's it. You know, all those years I loved you, you never returned my affections one bit. Instead, you ignored me. Sometimes even insulted me, she spat. Sasuke only scoffed. What was she getting so riled about? You're annoying, he said and turned around to walk away. Suddenly, a kunai flew right by his ear to hit the tree right in front of him. Don't walk away from me, cried out Sakura furiously. What the hell does she think she's doing? Thought Sasuke angrily, throwing a kunai at me. He spun around to face her. You should leave now. She pulled out another kunai and stepped into a stance. Fat chance. To be continued, and thank you for watching.